Time for another board recap podcast. How are you today, Dr. Smith?
It's a great day. Thanks for asking. Just came back from a check presentation
Well,
from
that was great.
yeah, Ascension St. Vincent provided health science program out at Career and Tech Center with $100,000 check. So really appreciate their investing in our students, in our community. But boy,
Another
what a
great
great day.
community partner.
You bet.
And so pleased that the students got to be a part of it too. A
Yeah.
growing program, been around forever and continues to get better and stronger. And boy, they were right there
Yeah.
soaking it all in.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, speaking of good news, let's take a look at good news from last night's board meeting, if you will. We talked about another, here we go again, continuing that theme of great community business partnerships. Berry Link, Berry Global, just a phenomenal local company that has their headquarters here. It's an international company, headquarters here in Evansville, but they've partnered with us. They've invested in a classroom at their Berry Airport location, and it's really a great program with our opt-in Southern Indiana Career and Tech Center.
And when you
Um,
talk about investing in classroom, you literally mean
Literally,
building a classroom, especially
yes.
for our students.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just a great learning opportunity for them in manufacturing, logistics, just the way that whole company is able to operate, and the learning possibilities are really endless for these students moving forward. So we lifted that. Dr. Erna Griffin, Captain Erna Griffin, if you will, longtime member of the Indiana National Guard, just led a unit for a year's deployment overseas. He is back now. He was formerly assistant principal at Harrison High School, where he graduated from. Now he's back at Plaza, where he also attended school back in the day, and he's the principal now. And just so fascinating talking to him, talking about the similarities between leading his troops overseas and then leading the school. So really fascinating. So welcome back to Ernie, and proud to have him with us and thankful for his service. Speaking of service, we had an opportunity to capture one of these heartfelt moments when a serviceman returned home, a surprise for a Rights alumni to come back and surprised his brother and his grandmother.
Mhm. Love
Dalton is
that.
his name. And yeah, grandmother works in the school cafeteria at Rights. And those were just some great pictures. So really enjoyed sharing that story. Also, opportunity to share some of the latest happenings at one of our many highly successful innovative model programs, and lifting this as a reminder too that this is now the Academy of Science and Medicine, name change to kind of reflect their core mission, maybe even more accurately than it was before. And this is formerly the Medical Professions Academy, the MPA. It's now the ASM. And then also for good news last night, I know this was something that certainly made you proud, Dr. Smith. Four of our traditional high schools finished in the top 80 in the state of Indiana on the U.S. News and World Report rankings.
Yes, I don't think that has ever happened before, to have 4 high schools from one high school attendance to
Right.
from one school district to be in the top 80 in the state.
Out of
Um
438, I believe.
Right, yeah, so hats off to all of our students, our staff members, our families at all of our high schools and our middle schools and our
Oh,
elementary
those
schools
feeder
because
schools,
they
absolutely.
grow right through that, and, just exceptionally proud of our
Definitely. That
students.
was that was certainly something that was truly, truly good news. So if you will, Dr. Smith, take us through consent items.
Absolutely. So item 3.02 in consent items, which is consideration of allowance of payments, it was $9,892,615.75. A very typical allowance of payments for that 2-week period of time. And we did have, um, when we think about things that um, are a little bit larger perhaps than usual would be $3.5 million worth of invoices, still finishing up some of the work that we did over the summer, but one payroll, no insurance. So a pretty typical amount for this time of year. Item 3.03, consideration to approve the purchase of items from extracurricular accounts. So McGarry Middle School was in need of a refrigerator. So we do have a policy that anything that exceeds $500 then is submitted to the board for their approval and really just for tracking purposes and
Absolutely.
awareness. Item 3.04, consideration to approve grant proposals. So we had 2 grant proposals this time. The McKinney Veto is a federal grant, and it is a competitive grant, but we are very fortunate to be able to partner with Warwick County as well as South Gibson to submit one grant on behalf of all 3, and we hope that we are successful this year as we have been in the past. And then The Title IV, which is a non-competitive grant, and that really is provided so we can provide some additional things for our students. We use that to provide the opt-in and ramp programs. And I don't want to suggest that that provides all the funding for those programs, but a good bit
Certainly
goes to
helps.
those programs. You bet. Item 3.05, consideration to approve the renewal with College Board. I think another great benefit of being an EVSC student is that we provide at no cost to the student or families the PSAT as an eighth grader as well as a soft or a freshman. And the state, as you know, then provides the SAT as a sophomore as part of the accountability metrics that we have in Indiana. But we are pleased to be able to provide all of our eighth and ninth grade students with access to the PSAT. Item 3.06, consideration to approve change order number 3 for the Delaware School Overpass Project of 2023. So, as we have said before, sometimes when you open things up, there are things that you discover that you were not aware of. And this basically is completing that project. And I'll tell you what, Dye Brothers did a great job on that project
Yeah, it
for us.
really did turn out well.
Yes, it did. Item 3.07, consideration approved change order number 1 for the Harrison High School facade repair project of 2023. And as I said, with the Delaware School Overpass project, when you open up and repair that facade at Harrison High School, there are a few things that we found that we would not have known about. So,
If you're a homeowner, you'll know exactly what you're talking about.
yes, certainly. And I have experience with that right now.
Yes.
But so we also appreciate Art Construction for the work that they have done at Harrison. Item 3.08, consideration to approve the instrumental rental fee for the 23-24 school year, and that will remain as it has for the past several years at $40 for the year. Item 3.09, consideration to approve fine arts private music instructor agreement. This is for specifically Tim Zeifer. Tim is an incredible musician, has taught at the University of Evansville, I think, for more than 2 decades. Also, principal chair trumpet for the Philharmonic for since he's been in Evansville. An outstanding individual, an outstanding educator, and we are very pleased that our students will now be able to learn from him.
Isn't that great that they have access to that quality, that level of talent of a musician?
You bet. Item 310, consideration approve the addendum to the with the agreement with Reflection Sciences. So this basically is providing additional seats at Lodge for the through the MIMS, which is a Minnesota Executive Functioning Scale, and with a particular, it's called a game, but it really is designed to give students more experience with developing executive functioning skills. And the source of funding will be a combination of Title IV as well as the grant that we received so graciously given by Toyota Foundation USA to Lodge. Item 3.11, consideration to approve the settlement documents related to class action suit against Jewel Labs, Inc., as well as Altera, Philip Morris USA Incorporated. So I think folks will remember that we were part of that class action suit. And as part of the settlement, then we need to have the board approve and sign these documents. So that's why it appeared on the consent agenda.
And that takes care of consent items and takes you into personnel recommendations from last night.
Yes, so those personnel recommendations are there for one's perusal. And um, we don't have this very often, but we were blessed to have the opportunity to swear in a new police officer, EVSC resource officer, I should say. So very, very happy to welcome him aboard. And he has quite a long tenure in history, most recently serving, I think, with, oh, just,
U.S. Marshal's
yes, thank
office.
you, U.S. Marshal
Yes.
Office. So,
And I know from chatting with him, really looking forward to being able to focus as a school resource
yeah,
officer on working with students
you
because
bet.
that is a unique skill set
Mhm.
and one our officers on EVSCPD do a phenomenal
You
job
bet.
with.
So, welcome aboard, Tim Everly.
And then we had 4 action items listed.
Yes. So, item 5.01, consideration to award the contract for the bus transportation underground storage tank replacement project of 2024. And these are simply removing the fuel tanks that are underground and then also replacing them. And then item 5.02, 5.03, both are required public hearings as part of a budgetary process. So 5.02 was the public hearing for the 2024 school budget, the 24 to 26 capital projects plan, and the 24 to 28 bus replacement plan. And then 5.03 was a public hearing for additional appropriation on debt service. And as we mentioned for the last board recap, we were not asking for any additional funding. We have the funds, but because of the timing of when the debt schedules came out, we did not have authority to pay one of the debt schedules. So the board approved, or I'm sorry, held the public hearing for that additional appropriation. And then item 5.05, consideration to approve a resolution. So uh, I was thrilled that we were able to do this last night. I think it's been well documented in the public that the Evansville Teachers Association filed an unfair labor practice against the EVSC, uh, basically because we wanted to pay an additional $1,500 in a supplemental payment. We received advice of numerous attorneys that that was not something that needed to be bargained because it is considered a supplemental payment. The Evansville Teachers Association didn't think that that was accurate, and they felt that it should be bargained. When they filed the original unfair labor practice, it had some penalties and other things with it that were punitive in nature, and that was so open ended that we did not feel that it was prudent for us to take a chance on paying what was listed in the unfair labor um, complaint of $5,000 for each unfair labor practice. Um, we didn't have great clarity in terms of was that one $5,000 times one, or this impacted more than 350 teachers. Was it 5,000 times 350? So pleased that the ETA withdrew the request for punitive damages, and basically the administrative or the I'm sorry, the hearing officer agreed to basically to say we will have a declaratory judgment probably sometime in November and or December. So basically, we are now able to go ahead and make that payment, that supplemental payment to our teachers and our priority schools, without concern of some pretty severe punitive damages. So very happy to be able to make that payment.
Yeah,
That
excited to
will
let those teachers know last night, then following the meeting, that they can
right.
look forward to that in an upcoming pay deposit.
Yeah, and that upcoming pay deposit actually is September the 15th,
Yes.
so will be our next pay. Then under information, 6.01, consideration of the agreement with Confluent Health. So I think this is a
This
great
this is a
opportunity.
win for
It
employees.
truly is. So EVSC employees and their family members that are employed, or I'm sorry, covered under our health insurance now, pending approval of this agreement in our next board meeting, we'll have access to PT and OT services. I think that is
At no
at
cost.
no cost. So it's a great deal, I think, for our employees who are covered with our health insurance. And then it also will come at a savings to EVSC because we will be able to control our costs. So,
And we have that conversation frequently on this
right.
podcast. A lot of the health insurance changes, it's really it sounds peculiar, but it's a total win for the employees, for those who are on the plan, and a total win for the corporation in
You bet.
terms of the controlling the expense.
Yeah. So it's great to provide those additional physical therapy services for our employees. And then item 6.02, consideration for the renewal with dental health options by Health Resources Incorporated. So in the upcoming contract, it looks as though that there will be a 3% increase. Let me make certain I'm right here. 3% increase this year in year one, and then no more than a 2% increase for the second year. And I think, once again, wanting to be the very best employer we can possibly be, we are absorbing that increase for our employees. So our employees will not see an increase in their dental health insurance now for another 2 years.
And that is another win. So,
Yes, it is.
and that wraps up the agenda from last night's board meeting. Great meeting, and hard to believe that we are now have 1 month of the school year behind us. So
That's
that
right.
is definitely hard to believe. But thanks for sharing this information today. We really appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.